Hello and welcome back to Space Engineers on the Xbox, on the Series X, on the Space Engineers beta again. There's a lot to go over on this particular beta, even though it's only a scratching the surface, tip of the iceberg type of update. It's still a significant update and one of the most important ones that Space Engineers has had for a while. The last most important one, as I said in my previous video, was mods. And this one, though, brings a whole raft of new features and possibilities to Space Engineers that we've never been able to play with. So over the next course of these videos, I'll be looking at aspects of this and demystifying certain things, giving you an idea maybe of how to do something we weren't able to do before without scripting. You saw, or if you did see my previous video on this, we had a solar tracking video and all sorts of stuff going on. And on this one, I wanted to take a look at one of the new blocks in a little bit more detail. I was only able to kind of touch on that block previously. So what am I talking about? Well, I have always wanted to take a base like that there and do something as simple as this. Sun goes out or down, lights come on. Believe it or not, that wasn't really possible in Space Engineers on the Xbox without any kind of scripting until now. And it's all because of the brand new event controller block. And one of the options on the block is perfect for what I wanted to do. So if we bring daylight back, light goes off. So you can do this and bring your base lights up when the sun goes down. If you've got a lot of base lights, that can actually serve to conserve power if you're running on a low power system, say like wind turbines or even solar power. In fact, you could use the solar panel from your solar tracking array using the custom turret controller, as I did in the last video, to act the same way as I've done here. So what did I do? Well, since I'm in creative, we're just going to take this panel away and reveal the large grid event controller block. If we go into its settings via the control panel, you'll see I have the setting power output percentage. This detects how much power is being output by a particular block on the grid, be it a reactor or be it a solar panel. Now, with the solar panel, as long as it's putting out power, it's going to do the action in slot 1. As seen here on the action menu. Action on slot 1 is to toggle the light off. The moment the power output here is equal to or less than 4% or 0.4% even, it's going to do the action in slot 2. And the action in slot 2 is to turn the light on. So first slot, second slot. So when the sun goes down, the light comes on. And you can see which action's being done by the colour of your event controller. Dark blue for action slot 2. Cyan for action slot 1. dark blue, cyan. So it's possible to basically group all of your base lights to this and then just set up a solar panel on the roof of your little headquarters, and as long as that solar panel is generating power, the lights will always be off. The moment that that solar panel stops generating power, the lights come on. And it's that simple that the event controller block is capable of doing that particular action. Equal to or greater than 1.1%, then turn the lights off. If it's equal to or less than 0.4%, turn the lights on. You can mess around with the percentage as well on the second slot to see if you can get it to come on when the sun goes completely past the horizon. These are just some settings that I put together for this particular video. And that is how to use the event controller block to control lighting based on the sun on a grid so that your power draw won't be as great, especially if you've got 20 or 30 lights on your base or whatever. You can also use the event controller to do other things. Like I said, you can have the event controller set so that if you press a series of buttons, perhaps you've got 3 buttons, but 2 of those buttons open a door, and 1 of those buttons does nothing. It's just a fake button. You press it, and you think it does something, but it doesn't. So you've got like a passcode lock. You could have 6 buttons, and you can use the AND function on the event controller to pick the buttons that you want to function to open that door. So the first action is triggered if each block meets the condition, else the second action is triggered. So you have to have all your blocks selected in your block here. Click the AND gate, and then the first action will happen if all of those buttons are pressed. So if you had 6 buttons and you picked 1, 3, and 6 as the active buttons, then when you press 1, 3, and 6, and only then will action 1 happen. Action 2 will be the default action when those aren't pressed, which is to keep the door closed. I'll set that up at some point and demonstrate it on another video, but this was just a Dwolfyone Plays Space Engineers on the beta to show off this functionality of the event controller and to just play around a little with what we've been given in the beta. Actually, we'll take time backwards and the light off. So there you go. And that's the one thing that I wanted to play around with briefly. Now, there's other things that came with this particular update, and if I just 2, 3, 4, 5, you'll find them sitting in the high-tech area, and they're small and large grid, and they have rear and front panels on them. Except, let's have a look. Yeah, we'll go for the move one here. that. We'll go for the defensive combat. So you have the AI basic task block, the recorder, the flight move, which I absolutely love the art on these. I think I've said before. The AI defensive and the AI offensive. Your AI basic task block is used for basically making, well, a ship that could follow the player. It can wander around a home position or perform the old autopilot features of the good old remote control block, which I think Keen will probably phase out at some point and just leave it replaced with this block. You have the AI recorder. This is a really, really powerful block. This thing here is absolute genius. It allows you to record by using a flight move block, a path for any ship that contains both a recorder and a flight move. So you can make very complex paths from A to B or C, D, E, F, G quite simply. It's all right if I had to pause there. I had to evict a cat from attempting to try and climb in front of the TV. Everything I do in this house is cat assisted. And so on. Yeah, so to give you an example of that, I haven't really played around much with this, so this is me going into it raw. But I've got my retrofitted Eagle pod. It needs thrusters in all directions, and when I originally built this, I was just using the natural gravity because I had no intention of making this Eagle pod any kind of remote controlled ship whatsoever. And so you'll see it has a few blocks that I've been playing around with. It has a flight and it has a recorder. It does have a basic task block as well that I was messing with, but for the most part I want the flight and the recorder, because what this recorder does is it records waypoints and actions at waypoints. So you can program a ship to land on a connector, say. Let's just make sure this connector has 0 strength. Don't want any pertum gravity accidents happening because it's 1.20 G rather than the 1 G of Earthlight. We'll do the same here. Just go down to here and turn the strength down. As I said, I have not played around with this overly much. I've just made the recorder fly from A to B, and that's it. Now, what we can do, in theory, is take my little Eagle pod for a spin. Let's just readjust the external. It was only designed for Earth-like gravity, so it be a bit of a pain. I just want to check something. So yeah, I've actually got landing gear on it as well. I hadn't noticed that. This was before the magnetic plates came out as well, so that's how. This is going back to a couple of years ago. I built the Eagle pod for the Century Eagle, one of my first large grid ships that I built in the game. So if we come down here like so, forwards like this. Try and get as close to the connector as possible. Right, we're ready to lock, so we'll lock down that connector. And we'll lock down the landing gear. As you can see, we can unlock and lock the landing gear quite nicely. So that's part one. Part two, we'll go over here and we will extend my landing pad here. Block either direction. And half the fun of this is figuring out if it's going to crash or burn. Because this is the beta, there will be bugs, there will be issues. And remember, you can report them to Keen on their support forum. I will leave a link in the description of this video to the blog post that Keen put up again last night to let you know how to get the beta if you haven't looked at my other video. And if you haven't, simply put, get the beta by going to My Games and Apps, searching your full library for Space Engineers beta. If you can't find it there, and it should be there because you own the game, go to the club section of Space Engineers on your Xbox, again, in My Games and Apps, choose the icon for the game, click the 3 lines, go to the official club from the game card, and go to the welcome part of the club, press the 3 lines again, choose switch version, and pick the beta, and you can install it there. So, anyway, the blocks that I have functioning on this thing at this point in time are the basic task, the AI recorder, the AI float move, and the AI recorder record. So in theory, if I turn on, and bear in mind, as I said, this is me doing this raw, I haven't prepared anything, so it may go wrong or it may not. If I start flight move on, and then I turn on the recorder, then put the flight move on, I should now be able to unlock the landing gear and unlock the connector, launch this, and scoot over like this. And bear in mind, there is a speed limit on your flight block that you can enforce, and I don't know if it's functioning properly at the moment. Again, I haven't fully played around with all this stuff. I'm of a habit of Gestalt learning, do it as you go, and I wanted to get another video up to show some of this stuff off, because this is pretty much the future of Space Engineers. Ready to lock, and I think it may have not worked, but we'll see. I have turned itself off. It's one of those things that you've got to get used to. Trying to work out how to do it, because there's no documentation on how to do it, is half the fun. So let's have a look, see if it's got any waypoints. Okay, it's got 2 waypoints. So that hasn't worked. Not a problem. Let's try just a simple set of waypoints to begin with. So turn on the recorder and see what it does when I unlock the landing gear, unlock this, take off, scoot forward a bit, turn to the right, stop the Eagle Pod, because remember, it's built for Earth-like gravity, so not Pertum, so it takes longer to stop, and turn off the recorder. Now let's see in the AI block what we got here. task. Okay, so there you can see it's actually recorded my waypoints. So, in theory, if I go and reset this back to its original position, and lock everything. Now, the bottom one plays the autopilot. So now my Eagle Pod should launch. Remember, it unlocked itself from the connector. And it will attempt to find its way to the waypoint. Now, it is attempting to pathfind as well because there's grids in the way, so you can turn collision detection off. It may make it easier for it to approach. But if you've got a hangar or something and you want to try and get a drone to land in that hangar, my suggestion is don't turn collision detection off. Otherwise, you could end up with a smoking hangar door and a ship that is somewhat worse for wear. So let's do what I originally wanted to do. Bring this thing back down. So I'll be doing a lot of videos when the full update comes out, as well as throughout the beta. I do believe the beta's unlimited. I don't think there's a time on it. From what I know, it'll just be on the game forever, rather like the feature that still hasn't made it over to retail. And if Keen Software are listening to this one, maybe with Automaton's update, we could finally have the unlimited block feature of the beta ported across to the retail, which would make a lot of people really happy, although it could potentially melt old hardware like the Xbox One, One X, because I've pushed the Series X to about nearly 2 million PCU now, and yeah, that crashed the beta. However, the Series X can handle 1 million PCU without too much trouble. Anyway, okay, so once again, back to the AI task block. And what we want to do here is just go into this block, ignore the red warning, because at the moment we don't have a move type block turned on. So it's not the task block even, it's the recorder task block. And we want to delete all your waypoints. So now, this is the recorder. Make sure up is record and the recorder on. And then we will unlock the landing gear, unlock the connector, and launch our little shuttle, so that it will go all the way over to here. and we'll bring it down onto the landing pad. The gear, lock the connector, and even turn off the thrusters. Then we'll turn off the recorder. Make a quick save. Now, I'm not sure if this will know to go back to its original starting point. That's one thing I haven't tried. So we could just literally turn on the play and the flight functions while the ship is undocked. So let's just turn the thrusters on, undock it, save so that I can always reload in case something goes horribly wrong, and do some science. Science. See what it does. It might not, thinking about it, work because it hasn't got actually a set of data for this point. So let's just turn that off. Hopefully. I mean, it took us back over there, which is a start. Normally, space engineers would have exploded by now. So here we go. The moment of truth. Everything's idle. We have play down here. Remember how to assign directions as well on the D-pad by holding down the D-pad direction you want and then choosing the function that you want on there. In this case, I have a recorder task, play on off. So we turn that on, we put the autopilot on, and it should now disengage the landing gear. It should disengage its connector. It should bring the little pod up to the right height. And like I said, there is a speed function on the flight block. Also, the collision detection is attempting to pathfind, so it will take a lot longer than it normally would because it is literally making sure there's no voxels, nothing in the way. It'll be interesting to see what happens with collision detection on collision avoidance when it gets to its primary point. Again, this is all raw. Like Zoklu last night, I'd never touched this until I got my hands on the beta. I had a quick play with it yesterday, but not to the same extent as this. All I did was make it fly forwards, turn round and fly to the right. And that was on my own time, not on a video, so you won't see that. So all these settings can be tweaked. And you can also trigger your functions by using the event controller. So you can put an event controller on your ship. You can put several event controllers on your ship that function in various ways, turning AI blocks on and off to create more complex and more nuanced drone behaviors compared to what you're seeing here. What you'll see here is that this thing doesn't really know how to orientate itself yet on the connector, but at least it will land on a pad. If the connector was potentially not at the back and it was underneath, that would be better. And because if you look, it's taking the positioning from the flight controller, what you want to do is you want to make sure that your flight controller is positioned above your primary connector that you're going to use as your linkage point, and then it will work. And that is your basic takeoff and landing AI. As I said, there is a collision avoidance on the block, which you can turn on and off. I haven't tried it with collision avoidance. I don't think it's set to off. It might be. The flight mode block, I think. Oh, it is set to off. So yeah, it's just precision mode, I think, may be what's causing it to take a slower path, because the grid has to reach the waypoint for it to be considered reached. You can have it to align to the planetary gravity, and you can give it a maximum altitude it can fly at, and you can also give it a speed limit. Although at the moment, I think with the AI recorder, the speed limit is a bit of a issue. I don't think it's working properly. Also change the record interval of your waypoints. So at the moment it's recording every 1.7 seconds. You could get it to record a waypoint every 10 seconds, depending on the distance. And the minimal distance between waypoints is 1 meter. You can also add a waypoint at your current position if you need to add more waypoints to make the path more nuanced. And I'll be covering something else later on in another video, because I don't want this one to go on way too long, about the reference beacon. This allows you to take a mobile grid, say a red ship or a ship of your own, and to record waypoints around a beacon. So you put a beacon on your ship, and then you record the waypoints with the vehicle that you want patrolling around the ship, or whatever you want it to do. And then it knows to update the waypoints when that reference beacon moves. So if you move 500 meters away, your patrol craft will update its waypoints to keep the circle around the ship. It should also update an interior waypoint on a referenced ship, such as a connector or a point in a hangar where you land. That's the theory. I haven't yet put that into practice. I'll be playing around with that on my own time to see how it all works, how it all falls together, and I'll be looking at doing another video on a bit more of these AI blocks, and also on the event controller again itself, because the event controller can be used to trigger the AI recorder task. And that means that you can actually have a shuttle. You can select a cockpit. Once you get in the cockpit, the ship will automatically start to move and follow its path to a predetermined point. Anyway, all that and much more to come as we dive deeper and deeper into the Space Engineers beta for the Xbox. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this has been enjoyable and interesting. I will always stay safe. I want you to stay safe as well. Take care, have fun, enjoy the game. There is a lot more to come from Space Engineers. This is just a very small sample of the actual update itself. Trust me, I know most of what's coming with the full update, and it's going to be absolutely brilliant. Until then, though, bye for now.